Morning, yogis. Welcome to your yoga class this morning. We're going to spend some time hanging around on our mat, working through our spine today. So please do make sure that you've got as many yoga props as you need. Bolsters, blocks, any kind of cushions that you need underneath the buttocks or through the back of the legs. At any time, feel free to go and find what you need and come back and join us. I've got a playlist I'm going to put on today, but unfortunately not while we're streaming. So if you've got a playlist that you would like to pop on before we begin our class, go get yourself organised. And when you come back, we shall start by coming into the pose dangling. Dangling is an interesting pose and can be quite deep. So please make sure that you've got at least a block or two with you. Similarly, if you come to a position or a place in dangling where it's too strong for you to stay, then come and sit down onto your mat and come into caterpillar pose where you fold forward across the top of the legs. Be mindful that you've got something to either help you support the back of the knees or the pelvic bowl. So come on up to standing. Then bring your feet up width apart. Keep your knees nice and soft here. And then as and when you are ready, with some support under your hands to begin with, we simply dangle, quite literally folding forward as far as is comfortable for you. Please, yogis, be really aware that whenever you work the spine, be alert for any kind of signs of pain or discomfort. And know that there are indications for you to assess the position that you have your body in. We'll be here for some moments, so take your time. And if you feel that you've gone too deep, we simply just come out of it. And then you just allow yourself to test the waters once again when that settles for you. And dangling is a gentle stretch for the lower spine. It loosens the hamstrings. And it just continues to warm up through the body, gently and slowly. It might be time for you to move away the support from under your hands. Just be mindful to keep a bend in the knees. And now, are you able to allow the weight of your head to lengthen just a little bit more for you through the back, the cervical spine? Facial features are light and soft, relaxed. And your lower jaw is just melting here. And just as the layers of your week or of life start to release with time in this pose, continue to connect to see if you need to be less or more supported. And if at any time you need to come down and change the shape of the body into caterpillar, sitting on the buttocks, letting any support you need, please go there. The essence of yin is to surrender, to yield, to release, to take that wonderful, intimate journey of body, mind, and spirit. In a moment, we're going to transition out of this pose, and this we will do very, very slowly. Bring your hands back onto your support that were under the hands at the beginning of the dangling pose. Just stay here and let the blood pressure and the internal subtle systems within the body notice and be aware that you've taken this transition. And then from here, bring your feet out wide to the mat. You may see that I still have a cushion here behind me. And that's been left there so that when I come down using the blocks and the cushions into a yoga squat, I have that support to land into if I need to. Now, not everybody needs this, But as this is the beginning of the pose, and we will be here for some time, it's quite nice to have an invitation land as opposed to an expectation in your yin poses. So just stay and let the body soften. Opening the hips and strengthening the ankles. Gentle opener to inner knees. Releasing in the lower back. Sometimes it's the waiting in the yin poses that can be the most challenging. And especially if you have chosen to land in silence around you in your yin practice. And sometimes it's the silence that is the most unusual or challenging aspect of showing up to your mat today. It may be time now for you to change how the support is around your body. For me, I'm now just going to remove the support from under the pelvic bowl. I still have my hands here on the blocks to support myself if I need to. And just for these last few moments here in this pose of squatting, can you just allow the pelvis to take that wonderful journey with gravity towards the mat and feel that natural lengthening that occurs through the whole back of your body. In a moment, it's going to be time to move out of the squat pose. Take this very gently. Once again, move the weight forward onto the balls of the feet and the toes. Bring your hands back onto the support that you had in front of you. Press into those as you lift back up. Bring the feet back in underneath the knees. We are going to come back into dangling again. So the second visit should be a little easier for you to be here. But as you did in the first option of dangling, you can sit in caterpillar or you can come through, fold over with me, and let's just stay here for a couple minutes. Can you really notice two changes that have occurred in the body? Through the muscular body. And often when you come back to the pose for the second time, there is an acceptance, there's a knowing, because we've been here before. And with that familiarity, often lands the opportunity to be at ease. Your head weighs around 5 kilos. Allow that to lengthen through the back of the neck for you here. Just adjusting or modifying the pose to suit the body that you're working in on your mat today. being less or more, and then being able to find the comfort in wherever it is your body needs to be, to find the acceptance. When we wrap our practice up around awareness of resistance or reacting, remedy those little challenges, you'll naturally start to feel the body release, relax, and surrender. And that's where we need to be. Now, once again, we will move out of this pose very slowly. So just lift the head slightly here, bend the knees and drop the pelvis down if you need a little bit more support and softening through the back body. We're going to walk our hands up onto our blocks. Very, very slowly lift up out of the earth. Good. You know it. We're coming back into a yoga squat. Please remember, if you need anything under the pelvic bowl, you will go and grab that. Keep the hands on the blocks for support if you need to. It's just for a couple minutes. Drishti is a wonderful little tool to have in your kit here for yoga. Drishti is the concept of one-pointed awareness. And we often only think of that as being external. So we can only look and gaze on one thing softly to hold our focus and our attention. But Drishti can also be internal. So if you feel that you're comfortable and you would like just to remove one of those incredibly strong senses to the external world, perhaps closing your eyes and finding a lovely spot on the third eye center. Place your awareness there. And then just let the time drift past. And when you remove the awareness from whatever you're attaching yourself to in the pose of squat, how does that change the experience of being here? So most often in my yoga practice, I need to figure out and I need to change the approach and the language that I'm using around my thoughts and how I'm reacting towards my yoga asanas. Maybe that's where you are this morning as well. We've started this class in some very strong poses. And I do remember the first time I held dangling for 3 minutes. It was uncomfortable. It was unknown territory for me to land in physically. Alrighty, we're going to transition out of this pose. Once again, please make sure you have your blocks or support there to land into. Roll into the balls of the toes. Stay there and then slowly press into the hands to help lift so that the knee joints and the pelvis aren't working too hard for you to come out of this pose. And then very gently bring the feet together. And then come on down to sit onto your mat. We're coming into Dragonfly. So that is a straddle. So not everybody likes to turn around on their mat, but I do to keep a little bit of support underneath the buttocks and also to rest my heels on the mat as well. A dragonfly is one of my favorite poses to land into, but also, truth be known, one of the most challenging in my body. We're going to be coming into dragonfly, firstly twisting to the right side. So we're going to bring that right hand to the outside of the right thigh, left hand to the inside. And this opens the hips, the groins, the backs of your thighs, a gentle opener for your inner knees as well. So be mindful. I will often grab a little roller. Tennis ball is just as good. or maybe even just a little something rolled up to place under the back of my knee to remove the intensity from this particular joint. And the journey is organic. It is whatever your body is going to give you today. You can place the bolster up on an angle, as we have shared earlier in other classes, and then allow yourself to rest into this pose where the neck and shoulders, the elbows are soft, really start to relax. When they relax, there's a release that ripples through the whole body, not just physically, but also through the nervous system. And so here, we can find the place to land. Just checking in with Divine Self and seeing how you're feeling. How is the body landing? Is it still struggling to find a place of ease? And if it is, that is the indicator for you that you may have gone a little too deep. The remedy is easy, but sometimes the hardest thing to apply to the practice, and that's to be a little less. Be a little less, support your amazing self in every way that you need to, and then see where the pose unravels to. The layers of life and the layers of your day, the layers of your week, as they slowly start to remove one by one. You'll notice that the pose will reveal itself in the beauty and the joy, the space that is available there for everybody, not just for some, but we all have the opportunity to be there. Drishti, one-pointed awareness. Alrighty, yogis, it's time to come out of this pose, and once again, we'll do this slowly. Come on up. Anything that you have supporting you, just place off to the side of the mat. And we'll wash these poses off with window wipers in between. So bring the feet up towards the outer hips, about 6 inches ahead. Bring the hands in behind you for support. And just allow yourself to rock from side to side. Do this with breath. So quite often when I see erratic movement in my own practice and I'm just moving incredibly quickly, as if there's a stronger desire to get this almost over and done with, that's a reflection on how my mind is, how my days perhaps maybe even challenged me. So to see if you can take the time, even through these opportunities to find balance in these strong poses. Come back with me here into straddle. This time we're turning to the left. Dragonfly to the left. So dragonfly twist. Left hand to the outside of your left thigh. Right hand on the inside of your left thigh. And then just turning around and coming to wherever you feel. It's a feeling thing. So the representation of the pose is not whatever your vessel, your body can make it look like. It is how it feels and lands within you. Sometimes even I forget that. We're here for some time, so let the journey be slow and gentle. Any support, including a little something under the back of your knee, just to release through the inner left knee. Support to release through the neck and the shoulders. And for many of us, straddle will not be much more than where we've just been. So that's where the acceptance and the practice comes to the fore. Otherwise, we just land wherever we can. Some of us have amazing access to the backs of our legs and our inner pelvic bowl and the backs of our knees. But also, there's a lot of activity on the side waist, the outer hip, and the back of the pelvic bowl here on the right side. So the discussion, the corridor, has to include all of those elements. You're almost there, yogis. Checking in once again before we start to transition into our next pose, how you're feeling. Good. Wrap this up in breath, and when you next inhale very slowly, come on back. Pop everything back off to the side of the mat. Bring the hands behind you, bring the feet in wider, 6 inches ahead, and once again move through window wipers. Take your time. Our next opportunity to land into a pose is that of deer pose. It's an interesting pose to land in. And again, there are so many opportunities for us all to be. So from here, the right leg comes to 90 degrees. I'm not really good with degrees, so I have to kind of be talked through this. So forgive me if I yabber on. If you don't need this information, you know where you're going to, then just land in deer. For those of us who need a little bit more help, bring your right shin level to the right edge of the mat, if you can. The right thigh to the edge of the right side of the mat. The left thigh level to the right shin, which is level to the right edge of the mat. And the left shin level to the left side of the mat. So you can see you've made this lovely shape with your legs. Now, for most of us, it's incredibly tight on the outer left hip. Grab some support to place underneath your right hand to lean into until this softens off. Similarly, and please remember this is a real option to land into, bring the heels a little closer towards the buttocks, and that will towards the pelvis on the right side, the buttock on the left, and that will help release it as well. And then as and when, you simply just change the pose as the body finds a place of acceptance. It's an unusual pose, dear. And in this moment, you have an external rotation on the right side, but you have an internal rotation on the left. It's a challenge for almost all people to land here. Again, if you need some support more than on the outer right hand, you can place a block underneath the right knee. And then just see if you can stay. Again, it's the layers of life that as they slough away, as they remove, as time goes by, and with patience and with that wonderful concept of drishti, just really pointed awareness, and that wonderful concept of pranayama, using your breath for space, it's amazing what can happen. Our lives are measured in increments of time, and we wrap our practice up in that as well. And in yin, yes, but the time is long. And as we are creatures of wanting to be stimulated constantly, sometimes the waiting can be the challenge. So in this pose, once you've found the support that you need to be in, instead of waiting, can you just enjoy whatever may manifest in time, whatever may come to you? For those of you who are a little bit more familiar with deer, start to bring the awareness to your left sit bone and see if you can allow that to grow heavily into your mat. Gravity takes hold of it and draws it down. Now, your right knee may lift, and that's okay. There'll come a point in time where the body will figure itself out. Again, if you need to just lean off a little bit to the right side, just to release the gripping that happens on the outer left, then do that. And then as and when, much like testing the bath water, we put our toe in to see if it's too hot or too cold, whether it's just right. How you going? We're over halfway. Now really connect into your outer left hip. And if that is still gripping, that really is telling you you've gone a little too far. So just adjust the left heel or take a little weight off to the right side. See if you can just release that. When that happens, when there is that wonderful opportunity to release, that's when the body finds that wonderful sense of acceptance and being in the pose. And then from there, there's joy to be found. With the concept of samatvam, of equilibrium on all levels of self, land. We have this attachment to yoga as being for the physical body, and it is. The vessel is a very important thing to keep healthy, mobile, strong. But if for just a moment we can release that concept of only being about the body, if we can look beyond that and investigate how we are feeling, how does that change the conversation for you? Alrighty, we're going to move out of this very, very gently. Just rock off onto the left sit bone, and you'll come back into almost a perfect position to window wiper once again. Just be careful as you internally rotate on the left side. It's been there for some time, and it may be just giving you a little bit of feedback, especially through the inner knee joint on the left. So these are all wonderful places of awareness to land. Let's go to the other side. You can always tell it's a great yin practice when you've got loads of yin props floating around you. So I find deer pose as being a nice counterpose to hip openers, which we've been into. But they can also be a little bit of a struggle. So again, set yourself up where you need to be in this pose. Just focusing on how it feels and not the visual representation, which is often what we get connected to in our yoga asanas. The reality is that every one of us feel and look differently. And so for a lot of us, and particularly for myself in the early years of yoga, it was about the non-attachment to needing to be any more than what my body was sending me and feeding me information around how I felt in the poses. So if you feel uncomfortable, most importantly, that you must move. You may also have noticed just by being here that one side of your body is a little bit more accepting to the other. One side of the body has a little bit more freedom than the other. Subtle adjustments as and when you need to through the pose, including any support that you may suddenly need. Even these little balls, little rollers here, are really handy just to sit in underneath. It's a little bit of support. So whatever you need to find this place to land, we go and find it. Once again, we're over halfway. Just check in. So just constantly checking in on the landscape of the pose. We adjust or modify the pose to suit the body we have for this day. And when we talk about the body, we immediately connect just to, again, the vessel, the physicality of that invitation. But when I'm offering this to you, I'm asking you to look through the whole self. Alrighty, it's time to move. So let's go do that. Once again, we just move the weight into the right hip, bring the hands behind us, and that allows us to rock through window wipers once again. Take your time. Let me share with you the next asana that we'll land into for your yin practice on this beautiful Sunday morning. It's that of caterpillar. Really is all about the spine today. So come on to the front of the mat. Caterpillar, so many different places to land. Sometimes it's about finding the dynamics, the support, no support, the openness, the acceptance in the pose that can be the challenge. So this morning, let's start by talking about the buttocks. So if you're curling through the back of your body, if you're rolling into the back of the sit bones and the back of the pelvic bowl, see if you may need a little bit of support, maybe a little cushion. Let me just go grab one. Just something big enough to pop underneath the body to sit on. And then you may notice that you will change the position of the body. So it's just lifted the pelvis up slightly, which has helped to soften through the rounding in the back of the body. You may also notice that you might be tight through the back of your knees. So we grab some other support, any kind of support you have, to pop into the back of the knees, which takes the intensity away from the forward fold that we'll come into. You may notice that you find it very difficult to fold forward and there's not much depth, and so there's a struggle to sit in the pose because of that. Bolsters are great, where you can put the forehead into them and truly just dive into the pose and let it unravel to whatever it's going to give to you today. Asanas are about giving. Sometimes we just miss that wonderful gift because we're going a little too far. So find your place, including even a bolster coming across the lap so that you can rest into it. And then here we stay. I'm keeping time. That is my job this morning. Yours is to have the very best experience that you can on your mat. You may have noticed I've popped the bolster between my thighs, and now that's giving me the opportunity to let my belly and my lower ribs rest onto the front of it. You've prepared the body beautifully to land here. Your tinana is in a place where it will find acceptance. This is not unfamiliar. In fact, quite the same when we were standing. So, where is there space for you? And wherever there isn't, please adjust or modify to be able to stay here. And caterpillar compresses your stomach organs, just as mine is here, if you're deep in this pose. Stimulates the kidneys as there's a lot of space that's being created for them in the back of the ribs. When the head is below the spine, so when your head drops quite deeply, you'll see that it could also massage the heart. It's not working quite so strongly. There's so many benefits that land in these poses that we don't see. Yoga is very much about the tangible and the intangible, that we see and feel, and that we don't. You're over halfway. Do you need to adjust or modify to be in a little bit more space and comfort here? Alrighty, it's time. Come on out with me. Pop everything off to the side of the mat once again. Tabletop, softer version. Just depending on whether your hands are more comfortable with the wrists, through the wrists, or the fingertips towards the buttocks or not. Place them where you would prefer them to be for tabletop. The feet are hip width apart and a good 6+ inches forward of the knees. And then as we breathe in, we press into the hands. So just test the waters. And if you need to reposition them or change the position of them, please do that. Breathe in and come on up. We'll do 5 of these to breath. Good. Need to exhale, roll back down again. Breathing in and breathing out. Good, just in your own time, another 3. And while we're doing these, let me share with you the next place we'll land in Yin, Sphinx pose. We've done a lot of flexing in our spinal column today. And now it's time to go and find some extension. Let's just do this one more time, mindful through the shoulder joints. So only lift the pelvis up as much as the shoulder joints allow you to be there. Across the ankles. So I'm coming into Sphinx with my bolster. 2 reasons. Firstly, it lifts me up into a space between Sphinx and Seal, which is quite nice. Secondly, it allows me to land there softer through the neck and shoulders. So the bolster is helping to support me as opposed to spending all of that time into the forearms, shoulders. But if you prefer to be without the bolster, not necessarily for height, it can be lower if you would like it to be, then feel free to land there. Come on over onto your bellies, onto your tummies. Position the bolster if you have one where you need it to be. Feet can be wide to the mat for a little bit more space through the lumbar spine or in line with the hips. Palms, the hands are facing down. You're resting on the forearms. The elbows are underneath the shoulders, supported or unsupported. Good. Now you're feeling the extension land through the spinal column. If you need to be a little less through the front of the body, you simply bring the elbows wider or take the forearms forward, and that will soften the pose through the back body for you. I'm keeping time. Alrighty, so we've been here for 30 seconds or so. How does it feel? Check in. Where is there space for you to be less or more? And that is not just through the physical vessel, the body, but where is there for you to be less or more in other places as well? Your breath, the activity of mind. Mind is a massive big unit, and often you'll hear instructors asking you to still the mind. Quite literally an impossibility. The mind and the brain, the matter that is in our skull and our head, drives every mechanism in our body, every system. But what we're trying to ask you to do when we ask you to still the mind, so the chitta, naroraha, stilling the whirlpools of the subconscious mind, try and look beyond it. So instead of investing in whatever the activity or the stories are that are playing in the mind, can you look beyond that? Here's an invitation. Stay in Sphinx, come on through to Seal. Seal is where we just change the position of the hands and we lift the forearms up off the mat, only if the extension in the spine allows you to do that. And I'm feeling incredibly supported with the bolster underneath my lower ribs, which is really lovely. Float between the two or stay where you are. Checking in now. Do you need to be less or more? Are you in that place of joy, in that wonderful space that you can hold physically, emotionally, and spiritually? The hinengaro, the consciousness and the awareness. It's connecting all of these places and feeling the euphoric space through the body. A wider, your spirit has settled. Tinana, the body has found acceptance and the wonders of the pose that you have placed it into. Ha, breath, the exploration of being able to track that and feel it expand and grow through divine self and the effects of it. Adjusting or modifying, being less or more through seal and Sphinx. And if your time has come to its natural conclusion, and sometimes it has, before I've invited you to come out of the pose, then go there. We'll meet each other on the mat. Breathe in here with me. And as you exhale, if you are in seal, come on back down to Sphinx pose. We're going to transition out of this and take a moment just to settle. If you have a bolster underneath the ribs, then see if you can just roll the body over the top of this so that you can keep the bolster into the belly, a little bit of compression through the digestive system, but mostly just to release through the lumbar spine. If you are on the mat and you had no support under the ribs, then come down to the mat. Take your right knee out to 90 degrees to soften through the lumbar spine. If you have the bolster, come with me. Come on over. Just shuffle forward a little bit here. Good. Come down onto stacked arms. And then you may wish to take your right knee out to the side of the room as well. Your breath. Really start to focus on drawing the breath into your belly, into the puku, and feel the expansion through the lower back. You feel a gentle rocking motion through the pelvis and the lumbar spine, that whole region around the rim of the pelvic bowl and the back body, just by breathing. Wherever you are, supported with a bolster or unsupported, take your right knee and bring the leg back to meet the left. You must go and do the left side. Left leg out 90 degrees. Just hold the space. Breath. Let it grow and manifest. Go and investigate in your own incredible self how just breathing can change the landscape of the pose. Alrighty, it's time. 2 legs back. Hands underneath the shoulders, whether you're supported or not, and then come on back into child's pose. If you have the bolster, I quite like a little bit of extension through the shoulders. Bring the knees a little wider to the mat. Roll the bolster a little forward. Keep the palms of the hands on there. And come on down. You can use blocks if you'd like to find this extension. And similarly, you don't need to be here. You can just be in traditional child's pose. Alrighty, my friends, it's time to come on up into your hands and your knees. Once again, clear your mat. Keep everything handy. We're coming over into a twist. For some of you youngsters out there, you may know cat pulling its tail and be comfortable in that pose and finding yourself arriving there. For those of us who are a little bit unfamiliar with cat pulling its tail, stay with me and I'll take you through it. Please keep a block handy to the side of the mat. So come on over to the right side, lay down, lengthen the arm out, or place the hand underneath the side of the head, right side. And then from here, bring your knee out, left side, 90 degrees, supported. Let me get rid of these. You might be able to see what I'm doing here. So 90 degrees here, and then allow yourself just to land. So you've effectively kept the space of the pelvic bowl by having this left leg supported. From here, it gets a little complicated. Kick the right heel up to the buttock behind you. Take hold of it with your left hand. Good. Find a little place where you can feel just a little bit of engagement through the front of the hip and the front of the thigh on the right side. You can stay here. Here's a beautiful place to stay. But there's more to go find the possibilities of exploring this pose in yourself by allowing your left shoulder to travel down towards the earth behind you. So there's the twist. And here we stay. You may need some support underneath your left shoulder. And if you do, you're going to find that. And also with having the left knee supported, you haven't got a massive rotation going on where the lower part of the body is rolling one way and the upper part of the body is rolling the other. But there is somewhere else to land in this pose. And for those of us who have the availability of moving into this extension, come through to this with me. So you take hold of the left toe, big toe, with your right fingers, and then you send those out to the side of the room. So holding on the left hand to the right foot. Alrighty, yogis. Very slowly release both the legs. If you have them both, come back to laying just onto the side body and rest. Alrighty, it's time to come on over to the other side. Rolling over to the left. Alrighty, how did we get into this pose? Well, we had some support coming in underneath the right knee to start with as we took it to a 90-degree angle. And then we kicked up the left heel into the buttock, took hold of that with the right hand. Let's feel that wonderful engagement through the front of the hip, the top of your left thigh. And then here we can stay. But if you would like to be a little more, thinking about it, whether you need the support underneath the back of your right shoulder or not, we just allow the shoulder to come down to the earth. So there's the twist. But wait, there's more. Left fingers, right big toe. Only if it serves you to be here. Yogis, in a moment, it's going to be time to give yourself the opportunity to slowly and very gently come on out of cat pulling its tail on the left side. Gently releasing. Come lay back down onto your left side. Take a couple breaths. The only place left for us to land in this morning is Savasana. If you have anything that you can place in under the back of your knees, so thinking about the wonderful opportunity we've had to land into our spine, the Sushumna, each side of it hugged by Ida and Pingala, the three main energy channels within your body. As we've worked strongly into this area, see if you can give yourself the opportunity to land in softness, to nurture in the end of this practice in that wonderful pose of Shavasana. Bring a bolster in under the back of your knees. And if you need something through the back of the head, go and find that. If you need a snuggly little blanket, go grab it. And if you need something to come over the eyes, a weighted eye pillow is a wonderful way to be able to give yourself a little bit more of an opportunity to withdraw, sensory withdrawal, so that you can truly rest in the pose of Shavasana. Whether you have your playlist around you, music swirling around you, or whether it's just those divine sounds of Mother Nature, here I have the sound of sea and tuis. Beautiful way to spend in Shavasana with the sounds of Mother Nature. Find your place to land. Breathe deeply. And as you exhale, whatever doesn't serve you just now, this is the vehicle where you let it go. You continue to breathe your way through your Shavasana for as long as you need to, taking as much time as life allows for you this morning. Let the body grow heavy, let gravity take it, and nestle it down into Papa Tuanuku, into Mother Earth. As always, it's been my divine pleasure to be able to share your space and your whare this morning on your mat in your yin practice. I bring my thumbs to my third eye center and honor you all for showing up to your mat this morning and giving yourself this great investment of time in your practice. Namaste.